The V Collection by Arturia has just been updated. They've got a bunch of new synthesizers and a couple updated synthesizers, as well as an updated analog lab. And what I want to do today is just show you some of the new synthesizers and even show you a comparison between their new virtual Juno 6 and my real Juno 6. So we're going to set that up and do some comparison patches, see how it fares compared to the real thing. And I'll show you the other ones. I'll show you some examples and just give you a quick overview of what's in there. I am very excited about it myself. I'm not getting paid to make this video, but they did send me the software for free. One of the new synthesizers included in it is the Oberheim imitation, the OBXA. And that one I have a video on already, so I'll put a link to that in the description. And then I also have a video on the V Collection where I talk about a bunch of the synths that you're getting in this collection as well if you are a first-time user. And I'll put a link to that in the description. So make sure you go check those out. I'm telling you, there is so much in this V Collection that I could probably spend half a year just making videos on the different synthesizers. For the price, it's just kind of a no-brainer. So not only does it come with these classic synthesizer emulations, but it also comes with a ton of keyboard instruments. The first new synthesizer that I'm going to show you here is the Emulator II V. And this is the synthesizer, the very synthesizer that was used in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's been used in a million songs from the 80s as well. Peter Gabriel, Jean-Michel Jarre, Pet Shop Boys, Depeche Mode, Herbie Hancock. Beautiful recreation, has the floppy disks. Just look up the Ferris Bueller keyboard on YouTube and you'll see him popping a disc in and doing his classic coughing. You know, so if you really want to recreate that, you can. So this was an 8-bit 27K sampler. I think in today's dollars, I looked it up, it would be something like $20,000 US to buy one of these. And then it also had a way to connect to a computer so that you could edit the audio to some degree and then put that back onto the synthesizer. So with this virtual version, we've got some sort of global controls for the patches from the top, and then if you click on this little screen here or that screen button, that's where you can get into the samples and load different samples on. So you can have 8 different samples loaded on the left hand side here, and then you can have those arranged by velocity. So I've got a sneeze that I just imported, a cough that's stretched out over a certain range, and then another cough that's up in the top. So you can see how easy it is to do key splits on your keyboard with the samples. And then you can also go over and assign things by velocity. So you could have one sample at low velocity and another sample at higher velocity. So just some basic sampler controls. And then you've also got some effects over on the right-hand side. And then on the main page, you've got controls like your filter, VCA, so you can control envelope of your sounds and stuff. All of the basic stuff as well. You can also set loop points in here. So if you want a loop, then you just click it right there, and then you can drag the loop points in just like this. That sounds great. Controls there, but really the place that this is going to shine is when you load in the original samples that they've got from the original Emulator 2. And of course we've got this shakuhachi patch that was made famous by Peter Gabriel, so love that. And some other patches that just sound great. Here you go. So anyways, beautiful arpeggiated patch, a nice pad. We've got an 808 kit in here. We've got the shakuhachi and then a synth bass. Okay, so let's have a listen. really excited about playing around with this one. And another thing that we should talk about is a couple of the plugins or the synths that have updates. So the Stage 73 electric piano has an update. Here's the old one, and here is the new one. And I'm sure those are different settings, so it's kind of hard to compare them and go, oh, one sounds so much better than the other. But this new one seems a lot more responsive. So it sounds pretty good. Here's the old one. Let's go to the new one. So it sounds really good. I'm digging the patches that I've checked out already. The other one that's got an update is the Jupiter 8. So there's now version 4 of the Jupiter 8. And the colors look a little bit more like the original, but then they've changed some of the buttons on the bottom as far as comparing it to the original Jupiter 8. They say that this has an updated engine, but I won't go in and try and compare any of these patches on this one. But I won't dig too much into this one. Let's go look at the next thing I want to talk about, which is the vocoder. And this one is an imitation of the Moog vocoder, which came out in 1979. It was short for vocal encoder and was technology that was invented around World War II to encode voice. And the one that comes here, from what I can tell, works with a built-in synthesizer, which is obviously a Moog sort of imitation as well. I like the way this one works. They've got the patches set so that there is always a sample that goes with it. You can load your own samples into it and then tweak that from the keyboard, or you can set up the routing inside your DAW. I don't even need to show you how to do it, because when you open up the vocoder in something like Cubase, if I go over to this little gear icon, you're going to see that there are tutorials. So if I click on tutorials, I can see already that I've got a routing for Steinberg that pops up, and then it will tell me how to make a voice track and a synthesizer track or an instrument track, which is going to be the carrier, and then we have the voice, which is going to be the modulator. So once you get that set up, now you've got your voice track right here, and then I can go right over here to my microphone, activate the record. Let's turn this down. Might want to wear headphones when you do this. And now I can sing into this. Check, check, check. Hey, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing the microphone. Right now I'm hearing the audio direct through my computer as well, but as soon as I play it back, I just need to change the routing on my computer, but this is what it would sound like. Testing, testing, testing the microphone. Testing, 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 testing the microphone. So I play some chords on the instrument track, and then I have the voice going through as the modulator. And the way it works is the vocoder separates the carrier, which is usually a synthesizer, this bottom one here, separates it into 16 frequency bands, and then it applies those frequency characteristics to whatever the modulator is. And usually what the modulator is a voice. So we've got the voice in the top part here, and the voice comes through, and you end up getting this merging of the two. So wherever notes are played on the synthesizer, now a voice will come through and get those frequency characteristics put onto it. And so if you don't have synthesizer notes playing and you just have voice, you won't hear anything. Here are some beatboxing examples, some bad beatboxing. And then here is a beat put through that same vocoder. So I've just set the output for both of these tracks to go to that instance of my vocoder instrument. So they're both going to that one. So let's look at what the vocoder is actually doing. So you can see that it's got all of this wiring. This line right here is for the voice frequencies, and this line on the bottom of cables is for the synth. And so what happens is it's analyzing the frequencies and then imprinting them onto the other. And so this is low frequencies to high frequencies. So right now the low frequencies are triggering the high frequencies on the synth. And so it's kind of mixed things up. And that's why when we listen to this, let me crank up the low frequencies, we're not going to hear much low frequencies. And if I use this little button right here, I can actually listen to my voice, or in this case, the drums. So that's what's driving this, a bass drum and then a snare and a little bit of hi-hat. But watch the bass drum, you're not going to hear that thump. So I can change this by clicking on that little button and choose blank, and it gets rid of all of the cables, the patching, very similar to, you know, the Reason with a little bit more animation. But let's listen to it now. So now we can hear the bass frequencies much better. And then of course we can change the EQ of this a little bit, or the strength of these frequencies. So if I click on the patches and let's go to the pad. And so what you can see is we've got a synth setting loaded with each patch, and then it also comes with a sample. So if you want to use your own voice or your own sounds in a track in a program like Cubase, you would click voice and then you would run everything through that. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what they've got as far as samples. So if I hit this little solo, so they've got a piano sample in there. Let's turn it off again. Let's go to a vocal preset, loads of those ones.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay, so you can hear what's happening. We've got a sample in there that's just 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then if I click this advanced button right here, I'm going to get into the sample editing area. Here's my first sample.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And what I can do is I can set this to legato.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
So do you hear how if I connect the notes with legato on, it's going to finish the sample?
1, 2, 3, 4.
And if I let the note stop,
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
so that's one way to mess around with that a little bit. The other thing you can do is option drag a sample onto the other one, onto another slot, and then what you can do is just set the start and end point. So let's turn this little stretch off. And I'm just going to set the end time to 1 and 2. There we go.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
On this sample, I'm going to set the start time. I'm going to turn the stretch off, and I'm going to set the start time, or the start, at 3, 4.
3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Now you can hear it cycling between the two.
1, 2, 3.
And with this play direction, it's going from one sample to the next one. So really intuitive ways for you to choose how the samples are being played back in the vocoder. There's all sorts of other stuff we can do in here. Of course, there's modulation. We've got effects, reverb, delay, compression, bit crushing, all of that kind of stuff. So let's have a listen to a few more of the patches.
All I've ever wanted was an ice cold man. And all I've ever needed was an ice cold man. All I've ever wanted was an ice cold man. And all I've ever needed was an ice cold man.
All I want is you. All I want is you. All I want.
And if you just want to work on the synth for a bit, you can just hit the little headphones. So that is the Vocoder V new to the collection. I also got my son in here, so let's have a listen to this.
Hello, everybody. I am snowboarding at this mountain, and it will be so fun.
make sure you hook it up for your kids if you have any, because they're gonna love it. Love the vocoder. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is the Juno 6, and that is the one that I was most excited about. So I'm gonna change the setup here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the software and the original hardware and try playing around with the sliders and see if we can line up the patches and see how close it actually sounds to the original. All right, so we got the Juno 6 set up with another camera there, and what I'm going to do is I am going to look at the patch on the Juno 6 or the June 6 V, and then I'm going to go over to the Juno 6 and set all of the parameters at the same spot and see how close we can get the sounds to match up. So let's just look at the interface here very quickly, and then we'll try this out. So here's a patch. So you can hear some reverb and some delay in there, and of course the original did not have those kind of effects, so I'm going to go over to advanced, and that's where you're going to see some of those controls. So they've got a second envelope here, which we don't have on the original Juno. So a second envelope, that's pretty much the only control on this front area that's different from the original, which is really cool. They give you the option to use this first envelope as a filter envelope, and then you could have one more envelope up top, which you could assign to the amplifier like you would normally. So that's pretty cool to have those options, but it is going to make some of these patches different, and that's what could be some of the differences as I do this comparison thing. But let's just try a bunch of patches and see where we get. So first thing I'm going to do is to turn off the reverb and the delay. And now we can close this advanced panel. And here's something that I noticed right away, and something I noticed when I got my Juno 6. So I got my Juno 6 on Craigslist, just an incredible deal. And first thing I did when I plugged it in is I noticed some sound, and it sounded kind of like the ocean. And when I opened up this virtual instrument, it was doing the same thing. And I honestly thought my Juno was on, because their chorus noise is a very authentic reproduction of the noise in the original Juno 6, which is kind of hilarious. So there's this kind of thing that happens with the original chorus. So, and it's going from left to right. So let's try recreating this patch. Go over here. All right, so I'm just going to get everything set the same. That's pretty good. Okay, so I had to mess around with the filter control just a little bit. It was slightly different than what they had on that one, but there you go. Okay, this is exciting. So for me, it's like I can now go through all of these patches and sit there and change the parameters on my Juno and really learn how to program this synthesizer. By the way, I've got a great video on all of the basics of synthesis and really talk about the Juno, which I will put a link to in the description. Make sure you check that out. Anyways, this is exciting. So it's kind of like a patch librarian, because you know what? The Juno 6 has no way to store patches. Okay, let's try another patch and we'll see how it compares. So getting pretty close. I do have to play around with the envelope a little bit on that one. This is really cool. And the truth is, who knows how well calibrated that device is. It's from like 1982, and the fact that it still works is a miracle. This thing's almost 40 years old. Let's try one more just for fun. How about a 90s kick? All right, get a kick sound out of my Juno. Not too bad. Again, I'm quite impressed with how similar these controls are lining up. I guess I shouldn't be that shocked, but it would be a really neat way for me to store patches. There you go, June 6 V, amazing little recreation of the Juno 6. Anyways, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what's in this package. So go check out my old video on this V collection and then go to the website and check out all the other synths that you're going to get, because I don't even touch all of them in my video. I'm just kind of scratching the surface. And then you get them all to run inside something called Analog Lab. And apparently they have a new browser in that. I haven't seen it yet, but that comes out tomorrow. So we'll see what it looks like. And it's just a way to organize all of the synthesizers that come with this whole collection. Anyways, go check it out. Great deal. I'll put a link in the description. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and the bell, and I'll see you in the next video.